NieR Automata is a sequel to NieR that came out in 2010. Yes, it was 2010. If you played it and thought, this looks like 2005, it was actually 2010. And NieR itself was a spin-off of the Drakengard series on PlayStation, and good luck finding that in America. It's an action game through and through. In fact, I equate it to Bloodborne, that this is probably gonna win everybody's, like, best action game category at the end of the year list. NieR Automata is actually a very unique game. So at the beginning, the start is great. It starts out like a little Galaga game, and the game is constantly changing genres at the beginning. Sometimes it's a top-down twin-stick shooter, sometimes it's a 2D platformer, sometimes it's an open-world third-person action game. It's actually kind of cool. Especially the introduction, the opening of this game is great. The music all around. One of the best game soundtracks in a long time. That was something I expected having listened to the first NieR soundtrack, and that is something that I think the game delivered on in full.
Well, that's new.
Is that a machine?
If you go through my playlists on YouTube, you'll see a lot of NieR Automata tracks. When you're up in the bunker too, which is like the moon base that humanity fled to 9,000 years in the future, which is nuts, even Star Trek isn't that far in the future, it's kind of crazy, has the best hub world music I've ever heard.
Morning.
NieR.
The commander's put me in charge of your maintenance, ma'am. That means I'll be performing regular checks on you from now on.
I see.
Oh, don't worry. We 9S models are the best around, you know.
The game gets full marks for music and style. Now, the meat of the game itself is a third-person open-world action game. Don't think open-world like The Witcher or Skyrim. Think open-world like Tomb Raider. You know, it's a little small open-world that they're all connected and, you know, parts are locked off until you do certain things. And graphically, I gotta say the game does look really dated. It runs in 900p 60 FPS, which if this were a first-person shooter would be a perfectly okay. I'm okay with a little resolution if it means I get a higher frame rate and if it means I get modern visuals. Battlefield 1 runs in 900p 60 frames per second, roughly. But this game does not look remotely that good. There are pretty areas and locales for sure. The style of the locations that they've chosen, there's a cool deserty area. There's this castle that looks like it's right out of Ocarina of Time. Like seriously, there are parts that are just completely untextured. But the shadows are very blurry, there's a lot of popping, there's some very, very flat geometry at the beginning in the industrial factory area that reminded me of Star Fox Zero. When you're in the sand level, you do leave footprints, but they're really crappy looking footprints and they don't last very long. And half of the buildings look like that! It's ridiculous! It's also a pretty colorless game. Like, I mean, when you're in the little watery tree forest section and the trees are moving in the wind and there are shadows and there's a sun glare, you know, the game can still look pretty. But in terms of raw fidelity and actual physical graphics, it's rough. But like I said, it gets full points for art direction. 2B looks great. She's got like white silver hair and she's got a blindfold and a super sleek katana looking thing and like a little black leather skirt. Her outfit would be great if not for the really, really creepy, weird, pervy, like Japanese schoolgirl thong underwear that's completely and totally visible all the time for no reason, that she makes no effort to conceal whatsoever. The combat itself, though, I gotta say, is very hack and slash with like a Dark Souls roll mechanic added, and then you have your pod. Your pod is a little like floating AI robot buddy that you control with right triggers, so while you're attacking somebody with a sword, that thing can be shooting at them. It adds a lot of depth and dynamic to it, so you can upgrade the pod abilities, you can change it to a laser, he can lock on little missile things, he can make a rotating blade around you. The pod is very cool. And you have a light attack and a heavy attack, and if you do them in different orders, you will end up with different combos. And the fact that you can jump and stay in the air and like do juggle combat and dodge while you're in mid-air adds a lot of it too, because a lot of the enemies are floating air, and then you can like do like a ground pound triangle to get back down. And if you dodge at the right time, you'll get this super awesome stylized like time pause freeze like separate effect. It's super cool. I gotta say though, when you are fighting in combat and things get hectic and there's a lot of particle effects, especially in 2D mode, where 9S is your buddy companion who looks exactly like you, it is difficult to keep track of who's who, and sometimes you think you're 9S because they look the same and then, oh, you're going off to the left or right. One thing I gotta say about combat is that the heal is shit. You gotta push down on the D-pad and then hit left bumper, and down on the D-pad opens up your 2 healing options, or maybe it's 3, I don't know. I only ever had 2 healing options at a time, so it would be small and medium recovery, and then you have to like cycle through which one you want, and then you press left bumper to actually use the healing item. That's stupid, that's annoying. There should only be one kind of healing item, and you should just tap down on the D-pad and it should automatically heal you. There's also a lot of items you can use, like speed boost, attack buffs, defense ups, and you have to pause and go in the menu to access those. There's no quick bar. Like Dark Souls' little item thing did it really, really well. It should be something like that. The controls are super tight, especially when you're going around riding all the mooses. Like, look at this. Try doing that in Zelda Breath of the Wild. The bait for the animals too, so when you want to ride on your awesome white elk like Thranduil in The Hobbit, every time you hop off your mount, you have to then re-bait the animal. You have to put bait on the ground again, and you can only do that through the menu, which is super annoying. I gotta say too, one of the best parts of this game are the robots. They're fantastic. Now, when you are fighting the enemy designs, that you are always fighting robots, but they swap costumes and they all have personalities. It is amazing. Some of them are friendly, some of them are hostile, some of them are giving you quests, and some of them are attacking you. It's like they're all role-playing.
You enter the domain of God. Wherefore art thou, Romeo? Juliet, Juliet. Wherefore art thou, Juliet? Oh, Romeo, Romeo. Which one of thou art Romeo? Juliet, Juliet, I am not wholly sure. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, then let us call thy numbers. Juliet, Juliet, then I shall take thy life. Die, Romeo, thou stupid asshole! I shall make thee a good day of thy bone. I shall make thee taste dirt.
I'm telling you, man, these robots are adorable. Except for that weird orgy thing that completely ruined the vibe and totally didn't happen. At its core, mechanic-wise, art-wise, design-wise, control-wise, it's actually a really good game. Which is a damn shame because there are a bunch of issues. Especially in some 2D sections when you're going down flights of stairs that you want to just like hop over the sides of them. You can't do that. You gotta go through all the stairs. The game does have a tendency of reusing bosses. The Goliath at the beginning, which is great the first time. It's huge in scale and it's very like ridiculous and over-the-top platinum style action gaming. But yeah, in case you were wondering, this game is Japanese. But by the third time you fight him, you can't help but think that you just run out of ideas. That happens with the spider bot too. Oh, you know what? We're gonna get back to that in a minute, because that was horrible. Having to unlock a fast travel option and having it occasionally taken away from you in the game is against my religion.
Back this way again? What a pain.
Stop complaining.
Yeah.
2B, this is Operator 60. We now have an operational transporter in the city ruins. We're attempting to deploy them at other points as well.
About time we had access to those.
The save system is total bullshit, so at some point in the game, the word quick save does appear on the screen, but it does nothing. It's a total lie. You still respawn back at the nearest vending machine. And if I can continue to make comparisons to Zelda Breath of the Wild, there are conversations where there will be voice acted, and they'll just switch to text for a couple lines of dialogue and then go back to voice acting. It's very, very jarring. The quest menu is completely useless. There's this Dark Souls Bloodstain type thing where if you find another player's body, you can either repair or retrieve it. So before you do that, it makes you go through a screen of deciding whether or not you want to pray for them, which does nothing. And just adds another screen, and immediately after that it'll give you the players like gold or plug-in chips or some resources or something, but it'll stop the game to tell you that on the screen, and then you have to wait, and then a prompt will come up, and then you press X to go through the prompt. You can't just tell me that in the bottom right corner while the game continues. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it does that a lot, and it certainly adds up. The weapon variety sucks. The best and coolest looking weapons are the starting weapons, because that white katana, Virtuous Dignity or whatever it's called, it looks the coolest, it has the highest hit combo, and it's the easiest to upgrade. And all the weapon vendors around the world, they only offer like 1 or 2 weapons, and they don't add new ones as the game progresses. So you buy from them once and you never need to go back to them again. The only thing I found myself consistently repurchasing was healing materials and animal bait. The chip plug-in system, which is like, you know, your skill system, like, you know, you pick your skills and your little upgrades, is clunky as hell. You know, you're an android, so you have your chips and they want it to look like lines of code, but it's incredibly stupid and difficult to see, and some of them take up obnoxious amounts of space, so you're like left to try to shuffle them around. It's retarded. And you just come across them as loot off of dead enemy bodies, so you end up with a crap ton of them and a ton of repeats, and the menu organization is awful. It's okay to have more than one, but they don't stack in the menu, so you have like 5 of the same thing, and you have to scroll all the way through it. It's terrible. But on the whole, I would have said those are minor annoyances. Those are flaws for sure, but none of them, they're by no means game-breaking. Because I would say aside from that, you do have a really good game, totally worth playing. And then the game broke and I couldn't progress any farther. And this happens immediately after you come out of a long story session. You cannot revert to a previous save because there are no previous saves. You cannot buy anything, you cannot stock up for the fight because the only nearby available shop vendors are unavailable. You cannot teleport away to stock up on materials after your long story section and a boss that you just used a lot of materials that you're now really low on and need to stock up again, like would be reasonable, because the teleporter is broken. You cannot go there manually yourself in the world because the game kills you for desertion, and the boss is hard as shit. And I got stuck. I don't mean I got stuck like, oh, this is hard, I couldn't beat it. I got stuck because the game broke and wouldn't let me do the things the game usually let me do. I was trapped in one area with an unreasonably low amount of healing items. It's a hard boss too. You need a crap ton of healing items. The cap is 99, so there's 3 kinds of healing items. There's large, medium, and small. Small heals a quarter, medium heals half, and large heals you all the way. I only ever bought small because, you know, I could just use a couple of those because a medium would get wasted if I wasn't completely hurt. So I only ever bought the small. The cap is 99, so you can have 99 healing items at a time. I believe at the time of the boss fight I had 10, which is 2.5 heals, which is not even close to enough because this game is difficult. I'm playing it on normal too, by the way. It throws a bunch of enemies at you. There's an electrified lake. The spider bot spams projectiles at you. And his health bar and the damage counter bugged out, so I had no idea how much damage I was doing and how much of the boss fight I had left. And when you die, you do not respawn with the healing items or the weapon buffs that you used in your last fight. And I couldn't get past him. Couldn't beat him. Tried for hours. Oh, you just suck at good. You should be able to do it with no healing items. Do you really think that's fair? Do you really think that's reasonable? I was liking the shit out of this game, and I really wanted to finish it. I put up my freaking Mass Effect footage a week late because it was still playing NieR. Because I'm like, no, the big AAA title can wait. I want to cover the smaller game that won't get me as much buzz because it's the one I want to play, because I'm enjoying it and I want to finish it. It's completely broken. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't care how good the rest of the game was, and it was really good. There are some sins that are unforgivable, and that's one of them. You know, if you planned on picking up NieR Automata, now that you know in advance that you just always stay super stocked on healing items because the game is going to screw you over if you don't, maybe then you won't have an issue and you'll be able to get through it okay, or maybe you can turn down the difficulty if you think that's an okay thing that you have to do in a video game. But I wasn't that lucky. Okay, now in the interest of full disclosure, and luckily for me, my black Jewish slave girl is the one who purchased the game after saving up 3 years of her allowance, and she actually had a follow going at the same time. She did heed my advice, beat the boss, and it turns out that was super close to the end of the game. So I watched her, so I did see the ending of the game. To be frank, on its own, it's actually a very incomplete story. It kind of just cuts off. Something else that has to be mentioned, though, is if you repeat the game, if you play through it again, you do it from the perspective of 9S, who is your little android companion buddy. There are 2 ways to look at this. One way is, oh, look what great incentive to continue replaying the game. Oh, look at this. I get all this new content, I see all these new areas, because a lot of the game does actually change. Surely this will fill in the gaps and tell the complete story. It's non-linear, it's out of order, it's unique, and it's really good replay incentive, and I really like that. And then there's my perspective that once you see credits, the game is over, and forcing the player to replay the game to get the full story, I find kind of shitty. I would say it's good replay incentive, but I think the first half of the game, I have to call it now, the core of the game has to stand on its own. So that's my take on it. I guess you do with that what you will. If you plan on picking the game, just be informed that the game is not finished after the first ending. So, truth be told, I'm at a huge impasse right now, and I totally see why people are ditching their scoring systems left and right. On one hand, NieR Automata is a very charming game. It's a very fun game. It's a very stylish game. It's a very unique game, and it is a game that, on all other accounts, I would strongly recommend. Look at your operator, 60. She's fantastic.
For your regularly scheduled contact.
This is 2B. Nothing to report.
Listen, 2B. I was looking at images of flowers today, and
Flowers?
yeah, there wasn't much left in the bunker's records, but I found one called a lunar tear. I bet you'd look really nice if you put one of those in your hair, 2B. It'd suit your stylish looks.
Don't need it.
Aw, don't be a stick in the mud. What kind of girl doesn't want to look good sometimes? I'll let you know if I find anything else cute, okay?
I don't need to hear about
Operator 60 out.
2B here. What's wrong?
Oh. There's this operator I kind of liked, but when I asked her out, she turned me down.
Gay!
Honestly, 2B, I don't know how I'm supposed to go on living.
I am definitely not the person to discuss this with.
I don't think I can stand spending one more day in this bunker.
You leaving would be bad for me. It would affect mission efficiency.
Are you saying you need me, 2B?
All Model B combat units require the assistance of an operator. So,
2B?
On the other hand, I encountered either one of the worst design flaws or one of the biggest bugs possible, to the point where the game was literally broken. Is it fair to give a positive score to a game that you can't even finish? I guess at the end of the day, that decision is up to you. I just want to make sure you're informed, that you know that ahead of time before you go in. But for me, I really can't get past that. I can't forgive that. That pretty much ruined my entire experience with the game, and I am left with no choice but to invoke Article 5.
Failure.
I personally decline to give this game a number. I do not believe it to be in a worthy state for a full purchase. It is one thing, but it is one thing big enough to ruin the entire game. Now that I've done that, I'm just gonna get a flood of dislikes, ignoring the fact that I basically praised the game the other 90% of the video.